All right, everybody, welcome to the afternoon tune. I'm your host, Josh, and today I got my two co-hosts. I got Neil, good old Daft Neil there. Neil from oneofus.net over there. Very awesome. Thank you, Neil, for joining me.
Here.
You sound kind of low. Say that one.
Happy to be here.
Oh, okay, nice. There you go. And I got Sage from Rated M for Immaturity there. How's it going there, Sage?
I'm doing pretty well. I hope you're doing pretty good today as well.
Pretty good. Got a test later tonight, so got a hard out there. How much do you all know about applied algebra? How much do you know?
Ooh, math was maybe my worst subject when I was in school.
Yeah, I'm more of a history and arts kind of guy, so
Yeah.
good luck out there.
Yeah.
Me and Neil coming from the same place.
Right.
But yeah, I got that later tonight. But I think we should get through this stuff there in a couple hours or so. I think my hard out is about 10:15, 10:30, something like that. So hard out there for that. But yeah, got good stuff, got good reviews, good stuff to talk about there. News wise, I only have the Return of Silent Hill, that trailer. That's the only news I got. I don't really have anything else really, unless you had something. There.
I haven't seen any big, for sure, not big video game news this week.
Yeah,
and I have not seen the Silent Hill trailer, so I'll be interested in that.
Well, I guess since you were interested, might as well play it first. I'll go ahead and cue up the Silent Hill trailer there, Return of Silent Hill. There, do that first. There, might as well. But before I do that, there, Neil, let people know about you, what you got going on, what you got coming up, all that good stuff.
Hi, I'm Neil. I live in Austin, and I am just chilling. I've been playing Ghost of Yotei recently. I'm almost done with that game, actually. I like it a lot. I like it more than Tsushima. And other than that, I am getting ready for the fall movie season. I have a lot of movies that I am very excited to see, including Frankenstein and Begonia. So just really excited to see what the fall movies bring us at the moment.
Nice. There you go. And if people want to follow you there, it's just basically Daft Neil on everything there, Letterbox, all that good stuff, Instagram, all Daft Neil.
Exactly, yeah. Letterbox, Instagram, Threads, the PlayStation Network, all that jazz.
Let me pull up your Letterbox right here. Let's see what you've been doing over there.
The most recent thing that's going to be on there is Bring Her Back. A very nasty, gnarly movie that I really liked quite a bit.
That's next on my list to watch for this month too.
And sometimes, like you say, you don't usually write a lot of reviews for your ratings. So
I did write one. I did write one for Bring Her Back, though. If you go to the left.
Yeah, if you go to your profile here, yes, you do have this one right there. So you got that. The last movie here you rated was Black Phone 2. You gave it 2 stars. You gave it 2 stars.
I did. Yeah.
And you did review that on the channel there before I did, and I saw it after you, and I agreed about the same there. Rental, stream it. So
right,
about the same there. Thought it was a step down from the first one, but yeah. I'd love to see that girl take on that little girl from Dr. Sleep. They have like a Shining off. I love to see that. That'd be pretty interesting. who could win?
Boy, Dr. Sleep is basically like a better version of the Black Phone 2 in hindsight.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. But yeah. So I do love Dr. Sleep a lot. But yeah, so Daft Neil, everything there. Just follow him. And we're gonna be doing a show Wednesday. Hopefully Neil can still join me that Wednesday. And doing a review for The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock, doing that one. So I've never seen that before. So the only Hitchcock movie I've ever seen was Psycho. So it'd be interesting to see The Birds there. Have you seen The Birds, Sage?
Yes, but it's been like 20 years.
Okay, 20 years. All right. Yeah. Them birds are attacking, man. Who was the dude that made that terrible movie that was kind of like trying to be Alfred Hitchcock?
Birdemic.
Yeah, Birdemic.
I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you who the guy that directed it, but I can definitely draw the movie title out of the
James Nguyen is the guy,
James
and
Nguyen,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
he
Yeah.
somehow made 3 of these movies.
Yeah, good old Birdemic there. Like he was trying to do his own, birds and everything like that. I think he was like a former real estate agent or something, or maybe that's Neil Breen who was a real estate agent. I can't remember
Yeah,
what he did.
it's
He
Neil Breen that was the real estate agent. I'm not sure what James Nguyen did beforehand, but
maybe he worked in like the tech industry or something. I don't know exactly what he did, but yeah, he had a regular job, and he decided I want to pursue my passion of making movies, and then he made Birdemic. He made that, which people say is even worse than Neil Breen movies. I have not seen. I've not seen Neil Breen movies either. So I've
oh
not seen that.
boy, you want to talk about a real horror film? Try watching like any one of Neil Breen's movies.
Yeah, and I heard he teaches classes at UCLA and something like that about film or something like. So there you go. He teaches
Huh.
film classes there.
Talk about feeling upwards.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, Neil Breen has the distinction of at least being like an interesting filmmaker, though. Like I find his work much more interesting than like, say, a Tommy Wiseau, for example, just because at least there's like more interesting thoughts put into Neil Breen stuff.
Yeah. How many movies did Tommy Wiseau make? Did he just make just the one, or did he do many ones? Or
I saw a trailer for another movie of his a couple years ago, where I guess there was like a shark on land or something. I don't know what was going on, but I think maybe two.
Yeah,
oh,
I'm pretty sure it's just 2.
okay. But eventually, I mean, Tommy Wiseau got a movie made about him. Maybe Neil Breen will get a movie made about him, and this dude will get a movie made about him. Maybe they'll cross over with each other. Have they ever met each other in real life? Maybe it's a crossover event they can do, or I don't know. Maybe they've met at conventions or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
The
I'm-
biopic cinematic universe.
yeah.
that would be a fascinating convention panel to have Tommy Wiseau, James Nguyen, and Neil Breen all in the same room together.
And then you force Christopher Nolan to ask them questions.
So, but yeah, so that's what we got Wednesday there. Since I'm already talking about upcoming streams, Friday, doing a stream there. Hopefully Dust can join me. Got a lot of stuff to review Friday because missed some stuff there. So there's a lot of movies coming out that came out this week, and then they're coming out last week there. So a lot of stuff there piled up. So I saw Good Fortune yesterday. So I'm going to be giving a review of that Friday, that movie with Keanu Reeves in it, that angel comedy there. We discussed this a little bit, me and Sage, but I wanted to get your input on this, Neil. Where did that kind of start? That outfit for angels, the whole trench coat look. Was that Blazer? Is that where that started?
I would imagine like probably Hellblazer or maybe even It's a Wonderful Life, because like Clarence in that movie is dressed in, just like, a standard suit. So maybe an offshoot of that.
Okay, I have not seen It's a Wonderful Life. I've not seen it. So I know it's a classic. Yeah, people talk about that movie. Yeah,
It's incredible. Like It's a Wonderful Life is legit incredible.
It's aged so well. It's really not aged at all, honestly.
Yeah. So there's that. So yeah, do that. Good Fortune. Then do a review for After the Hunt. I saw that Saturday. That movie with Io Debris and Andrew Garfield, Julia Roberts in it. Directed by Luca Guadagnino. Is that how you say it? He also did Challengers, right? He also did Challengers as well.
And Call Me by Your Name. He's a very good and talented filmmaker.
Yes, he also did Challengers and Call Me by Your Name. I like Challengers. I like Challengers quite a bit. Fun movie. And there, but yeah, do that one, and then do that, and then hopefully I'll see Springsteen, and then I'll see Shelby Oaks. I'll probably do Shelby Oaks, Good Fortune, and After the Hunt. Shelby Oaks is that Chris Stuckman YouTuber, so he made a horror movie out in theaters right now. So he made that, so that's his horror movie out there now. And then Springsteen, I'll probably review Springsteen the next following Friday there. That's obviously the Bruce Springsteen biopic there. Speaking about biopics, that's out there. The Boss, as they call him, Bruce Springsteen there. And then Chainsaw Man. That movie's also releasing this week, but I will review it with Sage. Hopefully Sage can join me next Monday, and we'll do a review for Chainsaw Man there.
Definitely.
that movie there. And I'm definitely gonna try to get that popcorn bucket. I'm gonna be
Me too.
fighting over the popcorn bucket there, trying to get it. So hopefully there's some left.
Yeah, Chainsaw Man is a big anime blind spot. I have to correct at some point.
Yeah, it's
There's
wild.
not a lot of it to catch up on. I'll say that. It's easy.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I got. Saturday, do a stream with Chris from the Black Stills podcast. We're gonna do a season 2 review because it's gonna be wrapping up Gen V this week. They're doing their final episode for season 2, so do a wrap up of that. So do that. No stream plan for Sunday, but like I said, hopefully Sage can join me, do Chainsaw Man, and then probably that's on the pretty much it on the docket for Monday there. Yeah, but Sage, let people know about what you got going on, what you got coming up, all that good stuff.
Hey, you can find me over at Rated M for Immaturity on Twitch every Tuesday about 2:30 Central Standard Time. We do a game stream. Right now we're working through Doom the Dark Ages, which has been a lot of fun. There's a review, of course, for that already up on the Afternoon Tune, which I would encourage you to check out. And then advertise, just published and released my first book this last week. Red Age. It's all flipped on the title screen there, but yeah, it's available at Amazon. It's a science fantasy paleo satire war epic, which is a subgenre that I think didn't exist before.
Very cool.
Very-
Yeah, I got a copy as well. Got my copy before Sage. There.
That's right. I actually don't even have my own yet. This is my cousin's, who is one of the editors credited actually. I asked if I could use his for advertising purposes, but I'm not even getting one until the end of the month.
And like I said, Radiant from Maturity there. You can follow them on YouTube right here. And also in Twitch. They're back to streaming again after some technical difficulties. So on Tuesdays there, you can catch them. But if you can't catch them Tuesdays or Saturdays, you can always go to their YouTube and check out all the long list of games they've played over the years. FBC Firebreak there. How's that update? Is that update pretty good?
I think it's pretty strong. I don't know that it's necessarily going to capture like that big of an audience. I mean, from day one with that game, I we kind of said it's really, I think, going to be restricted by people that are already kind of into the whole Remedy verse, and it just might not stretch out very far beyond that. I think it's a great update insofar as it's pleasing the people who want to like the game and who are into the universe already. I don't think it's doing anything to draw in, like, say, its own unique player base that's separate from the Remedy player base. But I will say they're doing another update in November, which is going to add a roguelike mode to the game, which I will see how it actually pans out. But that to me is maybe promising as far as having maybe some almost single player content, or at least something that's like a greater amount of variety at like a rapid pace.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always been interested in that game. I'm just not a big like multiplayer gamer aside from Street Fighter. And if nothing else, I applaud Remedy for doing something so unique. But unfortunately, they've just always been super niche in the gaming industry. So it's a tough balancing act to have, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then, like I said, wide variety of different games, multiplayer games, adventure games, action games, stealth games there, puzzle games, horror games, all different types of games, all right here on Radiant from Maturity there, fighting games as well. So all different types of stuff there. Played Evil Dead, the game, multiplayer game, played that.
Not a lot of multiplayer games. I am also just not a big multiplayer gamer, but every once in a while something might catch my eye. That game wasn't even all that good, I'll be honest. I'm just a really big Evil Dead fan, so I was like, let me at least play it a little bit, just because.
Played this at least 7 times here.
It was good for some multiplayer. It was good for streaming and just have something to talk over. It could have really been any game, though, to be honest. It's what I will say for it over a Dead by Daylight or like the Friday the 13th game is there is some combat. I get a little bored faster with stuff where it's just running and hiding or just purely the kind of flight mechanic. I like it when there's at least a little bit of a chance to fight back. So I'll give that game that over others of its style, at least.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll go find them right there from Twitter. Almost at 100 subs there. And then almost at 500 over on Twitch. The same name, rated M for Immaturity, and on Twitter. RM for Immaturity there, a shortened version of that. So if you want to also check out some of his takes there, or go into his bio and get the link for his book, it's also there on his Twitter. It is on your Twitter, right?
I may not have put it in there yet.
Oh,
I
okay,
should
well.
I should really do that.
Well, by the time this is up, you will see
Yes,
it on
yes.
his Twitter there, that bio there.
And congratulations for your publishing. That's really
Thank you.
neat.
Thank you. Yeah, long time. It took about 15 years about we started it, and there's a 2 and a 3 hopefully coming out this next year, and then the year after that. So
Great job.
There we go there. And for today's show, gonna do a review of Silent Hill F. Sage has that. He's played through that a couple times there, so it's a game that requires you to play it through a couple times to really fully embrace it there. And then also do a review for a horror movie, House, that won the poll there for October, since it is that time. We also put up another poll that the Birds, that's why we're doing the Birds Wednesday. I might put up one more poll and that would close out since we only got a couple more weeks of October. Man, October went by pretty fast, so only got a couple more weeks of that. And then, so yeah, do that. All right. And then maybe do a deep dive on Silent Hill 2. I just beat that. And maybe do a spoiler talk on that.
And Final Fantasy Tactics.
And which is Neil. Yeah, he's on here for Final Fantasy Tactics there. And then I'm looking on Return of Silent Hill. So I thought it was a full trailer they released. Guess not. It seems like just like behind the scenes or something, clip or something.
Okay.
I
More
thought
of
it
a
was
little interview with maybe a couple shots of new footage.
Yeah, well, I thought it was like a full trailer. Okay, my mistake there. So no.
It kind of blows my mind how little marketing it's had, just because they announced this movie back in 2022, and the CGI still doesn't look great in the footage they've shown. I just wonder what has been happening in like 3 years of post-production, or how much time have they actually been allowed to spend on the post-production? Has it just been sitting on a shelf for a good chunk of that, or like what's going on?
Yeah, this whole movie just kind of, from everything I've heard, reeks of we have no confidence in it, and we just kind of just happened to luck into filming it, and now we just got to release it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just basically just is all the new stuff out. Just them talking about the movie. Some new footage there. Him looking more scared. That's there. So I got that. Okay. So that's basically it there. Yeah. But after this, go ahead, rate somebody. Speaking about Silent Hill, the actress who played Maria in Silent Hill, she's streaming on Twitch playing Silent Hill 2. So maybe she'll be on. I rated her last time, and yeah, she's playing through Silent Hill first time. So yeah, and she's playing on easy mode. So trying to get through the experience there. All right. Very, very cool there. All right. So Neil, did you want to do Final Fantasy Tactics first? You didn't play Silent Hill Elf, right? You didn't play that.
No, I did not play Silent Hill F, but I'll join in for that review. I'll bounce back and forth, but
Okay.
yeah, I can do Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles now.
Okay. So Neil has a review for Final Fantasy Tactics. Neil, take it away.
All right. So recently, Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles released from Square Enix, and it is a remastered version of the 1997 game Final Fantasy Tactics, originally directed by Yasumi Matsuno, who previously had done Tactics Ogre, Let Us Clean Together, and after this game would do Vagrant Story, and then start the production of Final Fantasy 12 before eventually leaving that project. This remaster is a very extensive remaster. They've added a lot of quality of life features. They've added voice acting to the entire story, and they've done a lot of cleanup with the gameplay systems to make it more functional for a modern audience. So this is a very thorough remaster of a classic game, and I'm glad that it finally got released because it deserved it.
All right.
And Final Fantasy Tactics is it's the story of Ramza, who is the bastard son of a royal and the story takes place in Ivalice, land that has been recuperating from a long, prolonged political war between two factions, the White Lions and the Black Lions, for control. And what happens is that on patrol one day, Ramza becomes disillusioned with the orders that his commander, his brother, gives in order to squash a rebellion, and which leads him to disavowing his brigade, and his best friend becoming mad at him because of the orders that were given. Cut to a couple years later, and while with a mercenary group, Ramza stumbles upon a conspiracy that encompasses multiple political factions within Ivalice vying for control. There's some magic stones involved because Final Fantasy, and we are off to the races on an adventure to save Ivalice from not only political corruption, but from itself as a whole.
Okay. And for people who are familiar with the Final Fantasy series, who've played multiple games, this is kind of going to be in line with most of those there. Like it's going to be pretty similar.
Not really. This is actually technically a spin-off, so it's not a mainline entry, and it's very noticeable that this is a very different beast than typical Final Fantasies. This came out in the same year as Final Fantasy VII, which more or less set the template for JRPGs from the PS1 era onward, and this plays almost nothing like Final Fantasy VII. If you've ever played a game like Valkyria Chronicles or Fire Emblem, or even the Disgaea series, this is the game that sort of popularized that template, because how this game functions essentially is that battles take place on a grid, and you will select your party members one by one, and you'll have to traverse the grid to attack enemies and do abilities. And this is very different from typical turn-based RPGs where positioning doesn't really matter, and you can just click like attack or use cure or use fire or whatever. In this game, you have to move your allies around the tile and select abilities, and think a lot more strategically about how you conduct combat, because this game is no joke. It is legitimately a very challenging game, and it will force you to not only develop your characters in unique ways with the job system that I'll get into in a little bit, but also force you to think about how you position those characters, how they interact with your team and the enemies, and really forces you to think more strategically. It's more like a chess game than a checkers game, just as a comparison.
Okay. It's chess, not checkers. Okay.
Right, exactly. You got to think the entire time you're playing it.
And what system did you end up playing this on?
I played it on the PS5. It's out on pretty much every system now: PS4, PS5, Switch 1 and 2, Xbox, and PC. So whatever your platform of choice, you have access to this.
Okay. And how large is this game? Just in terms of all the things that you could do. How many hours did you dump into it?
Okay, so the game is pretty extensive. There's not an open world or anything like that. So more or less, there's like a world map screen, and you'll go from like one town to another, like more or less moving to a different tile. And so there's not really a lot of exploration or anything like that, but there is a lot to do in each, not only in each battle, but each settlement has different, stores you can go to. They have different errands you can run, which gets you more items and stuff like that. And hours wise, this took me around 35 hours to complete. And this was me mostly focusing on the story and doing a couple of side missions. Towards the end of the game, there are a couple of side missions where you can recruit secret party members, including characters from mainline Final Fantasy games. So that's fun. But those side missions don't really take a lot of time. They're at most maybe an hour long grand total. So it is a very streamlined and focused game. But within that streamlined nature, there's a lot to it.
Okay, so it's much more of a linear game than open world game, you'd say.
Yeah, it's very linear. There's not really any point where you're going to be confused about where to go and what to do.
Okay, because I know it can be overwhelming for some people. Some people don't like the huge open world experience there. It can be kind of daunting. Okay. Oh, you go ahead.
Right. And what I will say, the best part about this game is its story. The story is legitimately great. Is, I would say, one of the better Final Fantasy stories in general. And part of that is because Ramza, the main protagonist, is very well written. He is not just a, oh boy, I'm going on an adventure kind of kid. He has a lot of emotional complexity and conflict within himself about the orders he's given as a military officer, and how he responds to that is very interesting because it oftentimes is not how you would expect it. There's a lot of times where the story will zig when you think it should zag, and the story really does a great job of making you invested in its characters. Unfortunately, the weakest part about this game is the gameplay. It is an extensive remaster, but they didn't really do a lot. They didn't do enough, I think, to really address some of the problems with the gameplay, though.
Okay. What is the issues? Is it too stagnant? Is it too kind of rigid? Is that the issues with the gameplay?
The problems with the gameplay are, when I say problems, they're not like deal breaker problems, but they are noticeable. The biggest problem I have is I just think the game's balance is really wonky. There's not really a great succession of challenge because the first 2/3 of the game feel like they should. They're challenging, but they're not overwhelming. But then you get to the last third, and it just straight up feels like there's a bunch of BS going on with these fights. There's there are bosses that just feel like they break the rules of the game just because there's a lot of stats effects going on. And just as an example, there's a boss fight with these twin assassins, and the first time you fight them, you think, all right, well, they charm your army, so put accessories on to negate charm. Oh, you fight them again, and instead they turn you to stone. So it's just like, it just feels like a lot of fights you just can't win, or you kind of have to cheese out because it just feels unfair. And I understand that's a sort of an old school design decision, but at the same time, it feels cheap and like the game is cheating, unfortunately. The only other portion is the camera, weirdly enough, because the game takes place from an isometric view where you sort of are doing sort of a 45-degree angle top-down view. And because of the way the scenery is designed, where you have buildings and ledges you can climb and stuff like that, there are often times you can't really get a good view of what is going on because you'll rotate the camera and it'll only rotate in 45-degree angles. So there'll be times where, luckily there's a top-down view that you can use to mitigate this. But at the same time, there were several points in the game where I just felt like I never got a clear eye of what was happening in the combat, which in a game where the tactical decision making is so important is kind of a big problem, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. And this game here, so I'm looking at the price of it. I want to get you, is it worth it? It's $49.99. You think that's worth it there?
I would say so. I think it's a fairly reasonably priced game because they did add a bunch of quality of life improvements. Not besides the voice acting, they did add a compendium and encyclopedia to explain the story and lore in detail, which was really needed because the story is very dense and there's a lot of characters and organizations that, frankly, a lot of people would, uh, I would imagine, lose track of over time. So it was nice to see the story condensed and made more understandable with these quality of life improvements. But I do think this is a reasonably priced game. I personally would have priced it maybe at $40, but I can't really get mad at 50 though.
Okay. So, what would be your final rating? Thoughts?
My final thoughts are: despite the problems I have with the game, I think this is a really interesting piece of gaming history. It more or less set the template for strategy JRPGs moving forward. So if you ever played a recent Fire Emblem game or Valkyria Chronicles or anything like that, even though those games do a lot of the things this game does from a gameplay perspective better, it's still really nice to see, the grandpa that set the trend really get its due and be available to modern audiences. It's not a perfect game, but I think this is still a high tune in for me. I think this is a great piece of gaming history. And if you are at all interested in Final Fantasy as a series or the genre, this is borderline mandatory to play through. So tune in for it.
Okay. And these are like cutscenes here that are in the game, like these kind of, or is this for just the trailer here?
Yeah, there are multiple animated cutscenes.
Okay.
Most of the time, there were some cutscenes made for the PSP version of the game that came out years and years ago, and I believe they just reused those and upres them, but they're in the game.
Okay. Any technical issues? I know when you talked about Rogue Prince of Persia, you kind of were a little taken aback with some performance issues, even though you're playing on PS5 on such a kind of a just a 2D game there. Any issues like that? Technical issues, performance issues?
Not that I can think of. The no like technical issues for me. The only thing I can think of is more like just a gameplay thing because some of it's more about the gameplay issues more than the technical aspects for me.
Okay, well, that's good. No issues or interruptions there. So Neil gives a high tune in to Final Fantasy Tactics there. The what's it called? The Invalids
The
Chronicle?
the the Evil East
The
Chronicles.
Evil East Chronicles there. Very nice. Thank you so much,
Of
Neil, for
course.
that review.
Happy to do it. Of course.
So I'm gonna pass it on to Sage here. And he's gonna give his review of Silent Hill F. Let me cue that up there. Um, so yeah, awesome stuff there. Did you buy just the regular version of Final Fantasy, or did you get the deluxe edition there?
Just the regular version. There's a couple bonus items, but there's it's really not that
Okay,
not that important to get.
yeah. And you're a pretty big, massive Final Fantasy fan there.
Indeed, I am. I haven't played every single entry, but I have played multiple entries of them. So I would consider myself a big fan of the series.
Okay. Do you have a favorite one?
9. Final Fantasy
Nine?
9 is legit my favorite game of all time. 7 and 6 are right up there, including the 7 remake series. But 9 is truly a special game. So it's my favorite.
All right. Okay, so Sage is going to give his thoughts on Silent Hill F game, the Silent Hill F video game here, the latest Silent Hill game in the series. Sage, what are your thoughts on Silent Hill F?
So I'm gonna have to dance around spoilers. I think a lot with this because story. So we get story out of the way first. This takes place in a totally different place. If you haven't seen any marketing for it, it is kind of a big departure for the franchise, right? Stylistically, just aesthetically, just the location being this completely different place. It's a rural Japanese town in the 60s in like the mountains. And it is doesn't have a very big build up at the beginning. We get pretty quickly into this. And even within the first half hour, there's stuff I don't want to spoil, but I think just looking at the footage that's in the trailers and the marketing, I think there's a uh, pretty clear idea that the story is a reflection on the role of women in that society at that point in time. And it's been kind of interesting to learn a little bit more about the actual history at that time because in the 60s in Japan there was a little bit of a like a I don't know what they would have called it then, but kind of like a manosphere emergence in like culture in society in general. And so there's a lot of like specific terms that are even being used that I'm looking up and going like, oh, okay, yeah, this was like something they were just kind of starting to say as new lingo at the time. Um, and this character is really torn by societal and cultural expectations and personal expectations. You guys tell me if I'm being too vague, like I just don't want to spoil anything. But what is really cool narratively here, it's a big departure but I think really works, is typically in Silent Hill, right? You've got you've got your fog world, your other world, and the other world. It can change a little bit stylistically depending on the game, but there is a general sort of look of kind of that rusty blood colored aesthetic. 1 and 3 really went hard on that. 2 is a little different. The remake of 2 kind of brought that in a little more. But here, the otherworld segments are what you are seeing in the trailer as this very kind of feudal, traditional aesthetics. It's actually, when you look at the environments of the game, it's kind of a reverse of what you normally expect for the series, because the fog world is what's really in disrepair. And then the other world has this almost eerie cleanliness to it. Like it's like almost immaculately clean and constructed. But the sort of fears that come along with those expectations of traditionalism factor into why the environment is the way it is. And I think a really, really cool aesthetic. Now, where I think this game is at its strongest is narratively. I really, really like this story, especially as you go further in and gets the New Game Plus stuff. But the double-edged sword here is, because there's so much narrative in this game, is kind of locked behind New Game Plus. Honestly, New Game Plus Plus is, I'd almost say, is necessary to get the entire narrative. And then even if you do 3 full runs, there's 5 endings, so it could be more unless you're using your save slots in a smart way. I think you could do it all in 3, but it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because, well, I think that as I'm playing the game multiple times, the story has gotten better each time, and I'm like really seeing, I think, a lot of amazing stuff in there because of that. The combat it's clunky in the way that you'd expect from a Silent Hill game, and I'll get more into that, how the combat it works in a second. But as far as the story goes, it could be a little divisive or a lot to ask for some players to go through it multiple times because of some of the clunkier aspects of how it plays. If the combat's working for you, then I think running through those New Game Plus story stuff and getting that very greatly expanded narrative, I really can't emphasize that part enough. Like, there's entire plot threads that are being added into the game on multiple playthroughs that weren't there, or at least were only hinted at the first time through. But if you're kind of stuck on the combat and you don't love the way this game feels to play, one playthrough might result in a kind of disappointing game or a disappointing narrative. It's really a strength and a weakness that there's so much more in multiple playthroughs. It's great for the replayability of it. You go from a game that's 8 to 12 hours to a game that, could be 24 hour or 30, like you could really rack up some time. Although I definitely noticed second playthrough going faster. Certain parts were kind of getting they were allowing you to almost skip over certain sequences as well. So there's ways of it becomes a little more speedy on multiple playthroughs. But I think if the combat doesn't work for you, it could be a little much to ask for you to then go and sit through it a whole other time. So their mileage may vary on that. And then as far as the combat itself goes, the game does something really weird with its difficulty settings. It's got 2 when you boot up the game: story and hard. And of course, like the old ones, you could select puzzle and like combat as separate options. You could do like hard combat, story, puzzles, or vice versa. But these are really poorly labeled, because story, if you see that, I think most people, myself included, are going to look at that and go like, okay, well, that's easy then. That means it's going to be like easy, super easy. Let me go with whatever's above that, because I don't want it to be a cakewalk. Then you go up to hard, which, it's reasonably difficult. I don't think it's too much. But story is more like normal than it is easy. It's not like particularly tough, but it is like a kind of an average. It feels like what Silent Hill 2's normal is what the story is. And then hard is actually hard, and then there's like a very hard you unlock if you beat the game once. So there's a little bit of like UI design here that I think is a little clumsy, that could lead people to giving the wrong impression. Because if you're someone who wants your game to be a little more challenging, you might click on hard, and then maybe that's too much, and you're like, well, where's the middle option? Not realizing they labeled it so weird that what should be the middle option seems like the easy mode. And then if you don't want it to be hard and you pick that, then there's not like an actual easy mode for people who like do want that. So that's weird. That's just kind of oddly handled.
Well, it's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention that because I thought we were kind of done with the whole like weird naming conventions of the difficulties, because like it kind of reminds me of like when Devil May Cry 3 originally came out and they changed the Japanese hard mode to the American normal difficulty. So it just seems kind of a strange thing to happen in this day and age.
You're right. It is weird, and it is something that I used to have it all the time on the PlayStation 2. But that actually you bring up a good point. This game in that way, and then there's other ways as well. But it kind of feels like a PS2 game I think in a good way in terms of its level design, where it's very tight. These kind of environments are. Not that you don't have modern games that have tight environments, but to be honest, this is even more sort of kind of constricted and linear and straightforward, even compared to like the 2 remake, which I think on a normal first time playthrough, that's like a roughly 20-hour game, maybe a little less, a little more, depending. This, like I said, first playthrough, this should probably not take you more than 8 to 12 hours, like at that 12 at the absolute most, because you do run through this quite quickly, these environments, and I will say they do reuse some in the third act, and that's where getting back to the combat, that's where the game does falter a bit for me, even for someone that's got a lot positive to say. The game's combat system it feels a lot like, say, Silent Hill 2 remake did in some ways, but there's also there's a stamina meter, which they are taking from sort of the Souls or modern action games that we've had in recent years. Now, I want to caution, this does not feel like a Souls game to play, like at all. It's just that there is a stamina meter. Some people will see a stamina meter and go like, oh, it plays like Dark Souls. It's like, well, that's not exactly like, that's not all that goes into that how that works. But there's a little element there. And then there's also a sanity meter as well that allows you to do like these kind of focus counterattacks that you're like using up a resource to be able to do. And then your weapons also degrade, and then you can kind of use the focus meter to do attacks that don't degrade your weapons. So there is like actually a bunch of mechanics to this combat system where Silent Hill usually doesn't, at least most of the time, doesn't get too far down that road of making that very complicated. And I could see for people that are big Silent Hill fans, maybe that almost seeming like too much, or they're doing too much. It feels clunky. I think for me, it was a little weird to get used to, but especially as I got to, like, they say, the midpoint of the game, and then on New Game Plus even more so, I'm actually really finding a rhythm with it, because there's also this entire upgrade system as well that they have going on, where you're offering like consumable items at these save spots that give you points to then use to make your health or your stamina or what have you longer, or even like pieces of equipment that have like small sort of stat altering effects. There's actually kind of a lot to it. It's weirdly in depth, and I think it's a little clunky, but I think if you get used to it, I think it does actually feel pretty good if you let it evolve over the course of the game.
I was about to say, this sounds much more in depth than what I was expecting a Silent Hill combat system to feel like, because I only have experience with the Silent Hill 2 remake, and all these systems about like mitigating your weapon durability and focus attacks. This sounds, this is a bad comparison, but like this sounds more like something you would see in like I don't know, like a more straightforward action game, like a God of War, modern God of War, or something like that.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It is action game elements, right? That almost are feel like they're being pulled in from another genre. And I think for me, I think they work for the most part. I think it can be a lot to get a handle on at first, and especially if people are used to playing, these types of games without any of that, it could seem like a lot. I think I think it ends up working for the most part, but where it does falter for me is there's three basic kind of elements here. One, I wish there were just maybe one or two more enemy types. I do feel like you get a little lost in like the same sorts of encounters. And then to be even more specific, the second point there is there's one kind of, I wouldn't say like just totally regular fodder enemy, but it's also not a boss either. It's sort of like a heavy type. And it every time you encounter it, it kind of locks you into the room until you beat it. But
Mm.
that every other enemy type of the game, you even with all these mechanics, you have that classic Silent Hill option of running away and preserving your weapon, not using health items. Like you typically have that, but there's this one enemy type, and I won't spoil like what it looks like or anything, but for whatever reason, there's this one thing that they just every time it comes up, all right, lock it off like it's a combat arena, and it's like that's weird. I don't get why you're doing that. And it's also just, I think, too many encounters with that one particular type of enemy. Like you get a little tired of fighting it at a certain point. It's like, all right, one of these again. Now, as you get some of the upgrades, that becomes a bit less of an issue on New Game Plus. New Game Plus really is like the is a better experience. It's just that you have to get there right first. All these things evolve at that point, but again, it's just too many fights with that one enemy. And then in general, I think the last third of the game, not even honestly, it's really just the last like maybe hour and a half to 2 hours of the game. I think they just have too much combat. There's just a bit too much of it. Now I might feel differently when I get through like another round of New Game Plus, and I'm like, okay, now that I've got this, and this upgrade and these things equipped, maybe this feels that much better, and it's like way smoother to go through. But at least on that first playthrough, that last chunk just felt like it was getting a little repetitive. And part of that also results in there's one particular environment that you end up having to basically run all the way across, fighting enemies the whole way, and then run across a second time, fighting enemies the whole way again. And
Mm.
it's like, why? It feels like they almost maybe had like another environment that they couldn't fully develop all the way, that they ended up going, oh, let's just reuse one because we just need to extend the time a little bit longer. I think either cut one of those or just don't have as many enemy encounters along the way, and maybe that would have worked a little bit better. Um, but that's really just kind of that last chunk. Everything up to that point, I think, environment wise, really great level design, both from like an art direction perspective and also just navigating it and exploring it. I think there's some particular levels in here. There is a school at one point that I feel like, oh, this is up there with like some of my favorite like Resident Evil sort of environments to explore. The unique cultural setting for sure does a lot for that. It feels familiar yet different, which was in one of the interviews they were doing for the game.
Right. I guess the biggest question I have is like, as someone who is not overly well versed in Silent Hill in general, like, does the fact that it takes place in 1960s Japan as opposed to a more like Americana setting really, how does that change really affect how the game like feels or how you respond to the horror on all of it?
So I think it is definitely a case of that familiar yet different concept where there is I think a lot of this game very distinctly feels like, oh yeah, this is Silent Hill. Like there are a lot of elements to it that feel like there's a sort of the kind of dreamlike, kind of almost David Lynch dialogue that the characters have with each other. Where they're kind of almost sleepwalking through certain things, and they don't fully react to everything around. Like that feels very consistent. The tone of just kind of the eeriness of kind of this empty environment. Like there's a lot there that really does feel like Silent Hill. And then at the same time, they've gone into this other place where there is all this different stuff that you've never seen in a Silent Hill game before. Like I said, the other world being this very different take on what that looks like and how that presents itself. I think it is a really good marriage of what you might know from another Silent Hill game versus something that does feel brand new. I would say if you've played anything like a Fatal Frame ever before, it takes on a little bit of that tone. Because those games are also set in rural Japanese, like mountain towns, so it's like a very similar environment to that. But I think what the sort of uniqueness of what the Silent Hill franchise is, whether you've only played the remake or you've played all these old games, I think either way it's a consistent sort of sensibility where but it also feels fresh. Like it does feel like they've gone, hey, yeah, we had this successful remake. But as far as like a brand new game, we haven't had one of those that's been really successful since, honestly, yeah, it's about 2003 or 2004, I think. And let's do something that is radically different. But it mirrors just enough of what the original franchise is that I don't feel, to me, it doesn't feel like it's too much of a departure or that it's repeating things. Because one of the issues with Homecoming and Downpour, which were kind of the post-original studio games that came out in like the later half of the 2000s. Those games, a lot of what was wrong with that really was let's repeat the story beats of either 1 or 2 or 3 kind of over again, and let's retry these ideas. And I think this game's core, which again, I'm trying really not to spoil anything, but I think its core, it does tell a fundamentally different narrative than any of those. It's the first time in a very long time, about 20 years, that again, not counting the remake, that a Silent Hill game doesn't feel like it's just trying to repeat story beats that we're familiar with or that worked once before. To answer that question simply, just it marries that familiarity and that difference, but I think it does a really good balance of it.
Right.
Okay. All right. And for this Silent Hill game, you don't have a gun at all because you're in 1960s
No.
Japan, so you're just dealing with. I mean, still got the trusty pipe, and some other weapons there. How is that?
So
when it comes to
the
the
weapons are
weaponry?
interesting. So here's one thing that is very different from previous games. So Silent Hill 4 actually did do the weapon degradation things. It's not completely new to the franchise, but this game is interesting in that in the Fog World half of the game, you have pipes, baseball bats. You get some like heavy weapons too as the game goes on, like big axes and sledgehammers. You have items that you can use to repair them too. So like if you have one that's almost broken, you can you have 3 slots. You can carry 3 at a time. You can slot it over and then use something else until you find a repair kit. So there's ways to be smart about it. And the game also will generate new weapons into the environment, kind of similar to like a Resident Evil 4's, like it'll drop ammo if you need it and restrict you if you don't. It kind of doles things out based on what you have. But in the other world segments, you get these very old school, very kind of ceremonial weapons, and those don't have weapon degradation attached to them. So the gameplay is even a little different depending on which of the environments here. And then in that part of the game, you're getting like ceremonial knife or a naginata, like big, long, sweeping kind of pole with a big kind of dagger on the end of it. So there's interesting gameplay differences just between those two halves as well. Like I said, there's some fun surprises later in the game too, like some of the other Silent Hill games have had. And then the next thing I was going to mention was boss fights here. I think one of my favorite parts of the game, honestly, was the boss design. Some of the most just weird, imaginative creatures I think they've had in the whole franchise. Really, really like what they do with these. And the symbolism that they capture is sometimes obvious, although I think it's obvious in the other games as well. But it is consistently weird and off-putting in exactly the way you want from Silent Hill. So that I think that part of it's all pretty fantastic.
Mm, okay. Any favorite boss fight that stands out for you?
Um, yeah, but
Okay.
it's such a spoiler.
Spoiler.
What I can say is that when you do New Game Plus, the like final boss fight at the end of the game, there's like it will be different. It will be a completely different thing more than one time as well. Like more than one
Mm,
time through the game, the end will be like this whole different scenario. It's not, and when I say New Game Plus is different too, it's really not just like different final boss and then different ending cutscene. It is like throughout the game there's different stuff, new documents. You keep all your journal of stuff that you collected of like information from the first playthrough. And then in New Game Plus, there's just new stuff, just new plot happening. Characters are openly discussing in dialogue things that were kind of reveals and that like was being talked around the first time through, and then whole new like plot threads are also kind of being added on top. So like it really is changing as you go through it. And I think that's again, that's why I say it's a double-edged sword, because I think it's the key to what I think makes the game really interesting and really great under one lens. But like I said, if certain parts of it aren't working for you, it could be a tough sell to be like, oh, but it keeps getting better if you keep playing it. And you're like, well, I don't want to keep playing it. I don't like the way it plays. So again, that's going to depend on the person a little bit.
okay. Um, Interesting there. Okay. And this game, like many other Silent Hill games, has 5 endings, so you can get 5 different endings there when you do play it. So there is that.
And
Uh,
like in Silent Hill 2, there's like a couple of joke ones. Here, I'll say 4 of them are like you basically haven't finished the main story until you've seen 4 of the 5 endings.
okay. Interesting there. And you played this on PS5 there? Any issues there
Yes.
performance wise?
That's actually the surprising thing, is really not at all. And this is Unreal Engine 5, which is like consistently Unreal Engine 5 games have been like kind of consistently having weird wonky performance. It's like almost every new release that has that engine is having problems in the last like I don't even as long as I can remember us talking about this engine. But this game honestly ran like butter. The only thing that's a little weird is it does have a frame rate cap when you go into cutscenes. Excuse me. So cutscenes are 30 frames per second, and they're locked at that. But gameplay is at like a smooth 60, and it keeps it up. It doesn't like drop really or anything. There's no like screen tearing or graphical pop-in going on. And it's super smooth. It's a little weird that the cutscenes then cap it and go down to 30, so that's just slightly odd. But I think honestly, most people probably aren't going to notice that. That's like really being nitpicky about it. But yeah, the actual performance of the game is like shockingly good for an Unreal Engine 5 game.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that. Like, because like you said, Unreal Engine 5 has a lot of issues, and it's at least to me, it seems like Unreal Engine 4 games are more consistently like perform better than 5 ones. But I'm glad this game performs well.
Yeah, I think commonly I think it's a ray tracing problem where it's like it could keep it up with the performance because it does have more tools and more power behind it than Unreal Engine 4. But then throwing like some of these things like ray tracing into the program on top of it, and then demanding so much power and attention away from the rest of the systems that are all interlocking. I think that's really what gets the poor performance in a lot of these games. And I don't know if this game just didn't use ray tracing, maybe, but the reflections and like mirrored and lighting and all that stuff looks great. It's possible they just did it in a more old school way, maybe, where they just kind of designed and placed the lighting by hand. But the end result is like maybe the best performing Unreal Engine 5 game I've played, period.
Yeah. Performances. You had some standout performances in Silent Hill 2. Is that the same case in Silent Hill F? Do you have any people that are really outstanding in this game, acting wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main character actually is quite good. I don't have the voice actress's name off the top of my head here, but and I am talking about the Japanese VA. I thought really, really good. I thought really was like very emotional, very strong, and felt like it really, I think, came through. It's very intense. And now to say, I'm not someone that just dislikes dubs entirely. It's a case by case basis. I think some dubs are great. I do think the English dubbing of this, to me, it's not great. I don't think it super works. I think the English dialogue does kind of take away from the kind of weird David Lynch dreamlike quality of it. Like the just the English voice acting feels like they're delivering the dialogue in a maybe a more naturalistic way, if that makes sense. Whereas I think the Japanese dialogue is the Japanese VAs are leaning a little bit more into the kind of stop and start. They just sound more confused as to what's going on, if that makes sense. Like they're again lost in the fog, that just kind of Silent Hill style of thing. But
And
the English version is just a little like, it feels a little too casual about what's going on.
I think this is the Japanese voice actress, Kananutsu Kato, I think is
Okay.
there. So I think that's the Japanese voice actress there who's playing Hinako there.
Yeah, I think that's a great performance. There's a few other ones that are pretty good, but like honestly, even character names would be spoilers for the character I am thinking of. And it's one that's like you don't even get that great of a sense of until New Game Plus. So it's like there's whole characters again. There's a lot to that. But and then the other big thing I feel like is important to bring up too is the music. Silent Hill has always been very driven by its music. Akira Yamaoka, who's composed for every game in the franchise, he's back here. And he does some really great stuff. There's especially just like literally when you boot up the game, like during like the opening credits, basically, there's a really great track that plays. It starts as completely traditional like Japanese instruments, and then like a chorus of like children singing, and then slowly as the song goes, you start to hear his kind of like melodic kind of guitar that you might recognize from some of the music in Silent Hill 2. It's a cool like kind of mixture of kind of ancient and modern music that I thought was really interesting.
Okay. And this game is performing really well. It's one of the fastest selling games in the series there. It sold over 1 million units on the first day of release there.
And I think that is, it's got the #1 title, and it beat out the 2 remake, which was the fastest selling one even before that. So between these two games, they've made nearly half of the sales of the rest of the franchise combined over its entire existence.
Wow, that's pretty impressive there. That's really amazing. Yeah. Any besides the combat there, because I did in all the reviews, I did hear people talk about the combat and how kind of sometimes frustrating the combat can be. Besides that, any other real issues there with you with the game?
For me, not really. I mean, like I said, I think the English dubbing isn't super great for this one. So, if that's your preferred language, that could maybe be a hindrance as far as just appreciating the acting. Combat can be, like I said, wonky, but I do think if you give it the time to develop, it can work. But again, it's not going to be for everybody. Some people are also just going to be put off by how drastically different the setting and everything is, even though I think if you really let it play out, it's got all those classic things. So there's things I can see that make it a slightly divisive game, right? And that there's going to be certain people who are like, well, it's not taking place in the town Silent Hill, and it's not doing this, and it's not doing that. And I'm like, for me, those are all positives. Those are all good things that it's trying so to reach into such different places. And I mean, yeah, the biggest drawback is just if the combat doesn't work for you, you're not going to want to play it more than once to see all those evolutions that happen. But if you're willing to give it that time, I think it becomes great as it goes. One playthrough, just that first ending, might seem underwhelming. If it stopped there, if it genuinely stopped there, I would agree with that take. But it's not really the whole game. I would compare its kind of cycle to the Nier games actually, and the way that those kind of completely change perspective on what the story is and what's happening as you go through multiple playthroughs.
I kept thinking of Nier every time you talked about these endings. I mean, the one thing I will say is that like it's just as a point of like contradiction is that I kind of feel like Nier Automata in particular, I don't really feel like those endings are like, I don't feel like ending A or B of Nier Automata are like complete stories, though. They feel like, I don't know. It feels like the game just continues on from those endings. But like what you're describing sounds like you get a full story, and then you get a remix story essentially with the F components.
I would say it's like halfway between what you're saying and then what Nier does. It's like it's not all the way what Nier does, but it's like
Right.
it's a little closer to that than because I would say one playthrough I didn't feel like the story was complete. I genuinely did feel like there was like enough there that I was like, okay, but then they started to talk about this and then dropped it, and like where did this plot thread go? And then on the next playthrough, it's like, oh, this is like actually about this whole other thing. And that completely flips your perspective on kind of what's going on. Now, I will say it doesn't go as drastic as like Nier ending like 3 or 4, where it starts. That's like almost a completely different thing, right? Like it's whole new
Right.
stuff. So it's like it's like halfway between the two things.
Okay. So what would be your final thoughts rating for Silent Hill F?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 2 ratings, a personal one and then one I think for the general public. I'm gonna say for personally, I think I'm gonna give this a peek. I think you give it all that time and you go through it and you let it develop, and I think it just gets better and better as it goes, and I think it proves itself by the time you're seeing like the second ending, and then there's even more to go. But I'm gonna give it just a regular tune in for like the kind of more general audience, just because I know that some of those things it's going to be a hard ask to get people to stick with it for that long and actually see all of those things. So I think, I could see it being something where some people bounce off of it, but if you're willing to stick through it, I think it's got a lot to offer. And honestly, I do think this is, and again, not counting the remake, but as like a new Silent Hill game, I do think this is my favorite one since those original 3 games.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I know Dusk, he's not in here. I was expecting Duskmane to pop up there, challenge you on some of the stuff there. He had some issues with this game. So one of your ratings there, peak, and then the other one is just a regular tune in. So for people, maybe for the first playthrough, you'd give it a tune in. But if people wanted to kind of were interested in that first playthrough, go through multiple times, get the multiple endings, get the full story, peak. Okay. Interesting there. Okay. Very nice there. So 2 ratings there for Sage for Silent Hill F, which is available now. Worth the full price tag there, $70. Worth that.
I think for me personally, definitely. There's going to be some people who don't think so, but definitely if you give it all that extra time, I think it is.
Okay. Very nice there. Thank you for that review, Sage.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, just moving on to this movie review, and that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you guys do the movie review since I did not see this, but it was great chatting with everyone, and I will see you on Wednesday, Josh.
Yes, see you on Wednesday, Neil. Good old
Great
birds.
to do the show with you again.
Good to do the show with you too. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Yeah. So I'll queue up this and get started with our review of this. Very, very good. And then of course, as always, go ahead, rate somebody. A cat named Whitney, she's on playing the Quarry right now. She's wearing a bedazzled Ghostface mask. That's pretty
Oh, well,
impressive.
there you go.
She's doing that. Yeah, it makes me think, how does Ghostface see if like it's just pure like the eyelids are black?
I mean, they do sell those as like actual Halloween costumes. I've worn them before. It's like a tinted window. You can see
Okay.
out from the inside, but they can't see from the outside.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. But yeah, she's playing the Quarry. There she dresses up on stream every time for October, so I enjoy watching her October streams. There she puts a lot of effort into it. There. Let's see, Geek Dom, he's on. Speaking of Silent Hill F, he's playing that Silent Hill F right there. So he's been playing that recently. So shout out to Geek Dom. Looks like he's looking at all the different monsters that are in the game. Looks like
Yeah, the journal like records like a lot of information too. It's one of those where like, not every game do I always look at all of that little stuff, but in this I am reading every little entry in there because it opens up a lot of narrative stuff.
Okay, very cool there. So Geek Dom is on. So yeah, get some good people that we can raid after this. Very awesome there.
I was going to say for Monday too next week, if you want to put Dead Space 2 as a retro thing on the docket, we could do that as well.
Okay, yeah, I can add that too. I'll add it to it now. Make sure I don't forget. And I'll do that now. Yes. All right. So let me queue up this review and we go get it started. With this. Let's see. And this was your first time seeing this movie?
Yes, it was. I honestly didn't even know anything about it. I had just heard people say it was weird over the years. That's kind of it.
All right. So our movie review for the day is going to be for the film House. There, 1977. This movie came out there as a Japanese comedy horror film. There, directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi. And he's director of this film. Didn't pass away that long ago. He actually passed away 5 years ago in 2020. He was 82 years old there. And what is this movie about here? And this movie, this is part of the Criterion Collection. There, so this is movie part of the Criterion Collection. I had seen this movie before. Sage did not. This is his first time ever seeing the movie, so it'll be interesting to get his thoughts on this being a first time viewer of it. But it's a simple movie here. You got these 7 girls here. 7 girls who all have nicknames for each other. You never knew. I don't think you ever hear their real names. They only call each other by the nicknames there. And for summer vacation, their break from school there, they decide to visit their one friend's aunt's house for the summer vacation. They travel to her house, help her around there, and have a horrible adventure there, a horror adventure, you would say. So the 7 friends, you have Gorgeous is the lead of the film. Then you have Kung Fu there. Then you have Fantasy. Then you have a character called Professor. But it's only PROF. That's it, not fully Professor. Prof, I guess. I don't know exactly how, something like that. Then you have Mac. Then you have Melody. Then you have Sweet. And basically their nicknames basically just define their personalities. Kung Fu. Well, guess what she's good at? She's the action character. So she's very good at Kung Fu, and she's the action heroine of the movie. The character Mac, I guess short for McDonald's, I guess. She likes to eat a lot. There's that. So she just is constantly eating something. Gorgeous. She's a very beautiful woman. So they call her Gorgeous there. She's also constantly applying makeup to herself and everything like that. The character of Professor, she wears glasses. So of course, people who wear glasses, of course, she's going to do a lot of reading. She's a smart one. Then you have Fantasy. I didn't exactly know maybe because she daydreamed a lot, I guess, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They called her Fantasy. Melody, she was musically gifted. She could play the piano and things like that, sing. Sweet, I guess, because she was just a sweet girl, I guess. She was just nice. I don't exactly know all the reasons why she was called Sweet. But yes. So yeah, they just visit this girl's aunt there, and the aunt is the gorgeous girl that's her aunt that they're visiting there. And yeah, like I said, it kind of is just this wild, crazy escape of them just trying to survive this house from trying to kill them. And that's the setup you have here. It's a cult classic film. There, like it got kind of bastard. It kind of got hugely negative reviews in Japan, but it re-released there in North America, and then people saw it in North America, and people were like, hey, this is kind of crazy and it's kind of fun, and it kind of gained a cult following from that. So Sage, what are your thoughts on House there?
Man, I'm still trying to figure that out. This was such a weird experience. Very strange movie. Tonally, getting whiplash, right? Just like even before they get to the house, even just the beginning of the film, they are there's wild fluctuations between these tones, and they also used like a ton of like paintings as backgrounds or like green screen and artwork in a like even just at the beginning of the movie. It's like they're constantly doing this, and so it creates this like very surreal, just weird tone to the whole thing. Man, I it's funny. Hearing you say in describing it that it is listed as a horror comedy. It's interesting because I just clicked on it. I didn't look at anything else, and I was trying to figure out is this is it supposed to be funny? But then at times it seemed like it obviously was, and then but then it would drop at in other moments, and it it didn't seem like it anymore. But then again, it would kind of rear its head again. Again with the just fluctuating tone. I was thinking though, because when did this? Do you know when this re-released in North America? Like,
I
how long
bel
did that take?
I believe it was, let me check. I believe I want to say it was like 2010. Yeah, so they re-released, yeah, in North
Okay,
America in 2009 and in 2010.
okay. I wonder. I mean, I just wondered if there was maybe bootlegs of it getting passed around, maybe earlier in the U.S. or something. It's because I really felt like I could have seen Sam Raimi watching this in the '70s before making Evil Dead. Like there were
Mm.
times when I really was like, some of this almost seems like it's doing a little bit of the kind of wackiness of Sam Raimi before he really got started.
Oh yeah, I definitely could see that. And some of the action moments in here, and I'll play some of the clips there in the trailer there. I mean, I'll play some of the clips from the movie there. But yeah, I could see that definitely Evil Dead kind of style type action horror comedy that you have there. Very slapstick in terms of what happens, the way the characters kind of die. I mean, there's a lot of kind of good deaths in here. I think my one of my favorite ones is like the piano scene there.
Yeah.
That maybe is kind of my favorite one. So you have the girl Melody there who's playing the piano, and then she gets swallowed up by the piano. Let's see if I can actually find that clip there, which is pretty good. But yeah, so I think that's pretty crazy, like what they do there, and just also kind of like strange, just comedic moments in the movie. Like there's a scene where a character's just like he's walking down the stairs and he falls into like a bucket, and then he like gets stuck in the bucket, and then for some reason he just starts spinning around in the bucket.
I mean, that was straight up Three Stooges, like full on slapstick.
Yeah, like he misses this cat, and then even the way he falls, and then just for no reason, he's just doing that. Like what? Yeah, it's just like okay, he's just doing that, and it's just very very weird and very strange there. But it's you know kind of just works in this crazy kind of fantasy world of this movie. What do you think about the characters in it there of this like? Because like they're defined kind of by their nicknames there. Were they a little too one note for you, or
I didn't find any of them to stand out all that much, except for maybe the aunt, just because I feel like there's maybe slightly more to her and what's going on. And I mean, I guess there was a little bit of narrative that I felt like was hinted at, but not fully laid out with. And I think it was was her name was Gorgeous, right?
yeah,
uh, I think there's a little bit of narrative with her that I feel like they hint at. There's a moment where it's like late in the movie, and there's she there's like a bunch of flashes, and one of the images looked like she was in like a movie theater alone with her teacher for a second, and I was like, oh, is there some like allegorical stuff here happening with some like this much older man maybe taking advantage of her? But I feel it was just like a brief thing, and I wasn't even sure if I saw it 100% correctly. But so, character wise, yeah, I mean, I didn't take a whole lot away from any of them, except for that. That seemed like maybe there was something deeper under the surface happening.
yeah, yeah. One of the, I mean, things about this movie, like you said, they're like I said, they're kind of defined by the nicknames there, so you don't really get much beyond that for some of them. Some of them get dispatched with pretty quickly. With that, like I said, the girl that likes to eat. I mean, yeah, that's it. That's basically it's like I mean, she's always got like two fistfuls of something, burgers or something there in her hands. That's about it. And then I mean, the girl that's the kung fu girl, like she busts out kung fu moves, and then they do these quick, fast kind of edits there. In it, like
And
there's
that reminded me of Sam Raimi's kind of crazy camera work a little bit too.
yeah, like you have that kind of going on. But there's also some just really interesting visual moments. There's a scene where I think it's the gorgeous character. She's looking at the mirror and the mirror's cracking. And then as it's cracking, like she's also kind of herself is cracking as a mirror, which I thought was really interesting. That was really good in the kind of this very Wizard of Oz s color kind of
Mhm.
palette that you have in this movie. Like you mentioned, like some of the scenes that kind of look like a painting they're walking on. I played it a little bit in the trailer where they're just kind of walking up to the aunt's house and like you kind of see with the background they're walking against, this kind of green scene painting like thing there that you have, which is also very good there. I think that's very cool. What'd you think about a lot of that in the movie?
That I think is the strongest thing about it is just that visual flair because it just looks so weird and just so unique and different. That was my favorite element of the whole thing. I thought, and even just some of those backgrounds, even if I just saw that as a painting at a museum, I was like, wow, that's a great painting. Just really good art, honestly. I thought, and then again, it helped it stand out because, like I said, the characters are pretty. I felt like pretty one note. Like there's not much to that. So the movie, and sometimes the plot, I feel like was downright just incoherent. So I feel like the movie is a lot of the time it's getting by on it how crazy its visuals can be.
Mm, yeah. So yeah, a lot of that too. Yeah, it's kind of getting by on how wacky it is in terms of that. You said you were kind of a little bit more interested in the aunt there and kind of what the aunt had going on.
I'm
But
not sure what she had going on, but I am more interested in it.
so I mean, we're gonna do a spoiler talk for the movie there, since I mean it's an old movie, but yeah. So the aunt seems to be, I guess, in some ways a witch there. In some ways,
Or the cat is. I can't tell which one's in charge.
yeah, the cat or the witch, they're working in tandem. They're a team there that you
Right.
have. And so with the aunt there, she lost her husband in war. They give a backstory how she lost her husband there. He never came home, so she just spent all this time just waiting for him to come back, and she lost all her youth waiting for him to come back there. So what she kind of does is she is able to steal the youth of other people, eat them there, and regain that. You see her, like, at first you see her, she's in a wheelchair, and then she's very weak and feeble there, and then feeble, and then you see that she kills one of the characters, and then she kind of is able to walk from the wheelchair and all that other stuff to that. And there's like a scene where they're eating watermelon together, and she's messing with one of the girls there, which is kind of interesting. This is the scene right here where she's doing that, where she's kind of, she looks rejuvenated, she looks healthier. You got that kind of going on. So yeah, so she's trying to do that. So this is it right here. And the girl, I think she's doing, I think this girl is supposed to be sweet, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, that felt like one of those moments that's very.
Oh, fantasy. That's who it was.
Oh, because she's always imagining things.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments where I instantly thought, "Oh, Sam Raimi, like that. That's totally got that kind of dark humor sensibility. Like that. That's. I mean, I feel like they even did that. In, what was it, Evil Dead Rise? They even did that with the eyeball in the mouth at one point, like that same visual.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that's very cool there. But yeah, that seems to kind of be her kind of main goal there. And then she also takes the body of her niece there, who's gorgeous, and takes over her body. You see that with that there, and she takes over. And also with this movie, so some good things about this movie. So this is the first Japanese film to use video effects, which is applied in a scene there, make one of the girls dissolve underwater through low fidelity video and a simple chroma kind of key effect. So that's a very interesting note about that with it there. So it just constantly also ratchets it up, the all these strange things that's happening. And this is a very short movie. It's only like an hour and 20 something minutes, barely an hour and 30. So it's only that there. So it's a quick watch where you can watch there at home. Besides kind of some of the imagery of the movie there, what were kind of you thinking through most of it, of like what it was kind of supposed to represent, what these kind of girls were going through?
Well, this is just me kind of doing my best to guess because I felt like it felt like the kind of movie where I might have to like read some like essays to fully decipher. But there was some imagery of the atomic bomb, and then sort of a, kind of showing like the first, almost like the first generation that was born and grew up kind of in the aftermath of it to some degree, or after society had kind of collected itself from it. And so it seemed like there might be, to me, a little bit of this is, the kind of the generation that like had the bombs dropped in their childhood, almost being like jealous of the stolen childhood and then stealing the youth of these girls almost as a is sort of metaphor for that like jealousy of like kind of almost a generation like losing like their entire like this entire part of their lives and then seeing this next generation actually kind of enjoying it. And yeah, that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah. Pretty much. So the director there, Obihashi, incorporated themes, like you said, of the atomic bombs there, Hiroshima, Nagasaki there, into it. Um, Obayashi was born in Hiroshima and lost all his childhood friends there. It says here from
Yeah.
these bombings. So he applied themes of that into the plot there, with a woman's ghost waiting for her lover to return from World War II there, and then kind of that anger of seeing all these people there who never had to experience that, and that kind of came out in this a little bit. So that's some of the themes incorporated
That's
into
close.
the
I'm closer than I expected it to be.
movie. There was pretty cool. Did you have a favorite character at all? Was it the aunt or?
Either the aunt or the cat. I was pretty mesmerized by some of the things that cat was doing.
Pretty cute cat. Yeah, the cat had this effect of like its eye, like the eyes turned green or something, or it had this green effect there. Would it be doing something? I don't know. I kind of had I liked a lot of stuff Kung Fu did. I liked a lot of stuff she
Oh,
did.
sure.
I thought that kind of what she did there.
Also, that shot with the hair in the tub, is that like I don't know, but is that the first like movie where because that sort of visual was used a lot in The Grudge and The Ring and like a lot of J horror that would come like later. I wonder if that's like the first movie to have that like black hair, like wet hair coming out of like water sort of effect.
I wonder. Yeah, I don't
It's
know
brief
actually.
because they don't use it like a bunch of times. It's just that one scene, but they do it.
That's an interesting point. It'd be good to find that out and how influential this movie was on other horror films. Like I said, it did become a cult classic, but it didn't release in North America until 2009, 2010, as I said there. But yeah, uh, and a lot of the approach of this movie. So this was also Toho Studios, famous Toho Studios there. People know in Japanese entertainment that's responsible for things like Godzilla, especially that's huge there. And then even the director of this movie had a pitch for Godzilla. The
Hmm.
pitch says here with Godzilla. So Obihashi proposed a story for what would have been the 16th Godzilla film. Had the film been made, it would have used the same crew as this film, so you'd had some of the same
Okay.
actors there. And then let's see, the story would have told a little girl named Mamo who discovers the dead body of Godzilla. After being dissected, Godzilla is revealed to be a pregnant female alien named Roseanne, who died of diabetes. The brain of
What?
the dead, the brain of
Did
the
you
dead
just have a
Roseanne.
stroke or did I?
Hey, this is his grand plan here. He says the brain of the dead Roseanne instructs that the humans that she must return with her unborn son to the planet of Godzilla, so her body is converted into a spaceship. The newborn child would be reunited with his father, and they would have fought a female monster that shot fire from her breast. Uh, and then ultimately, this project was discarded by Toho and was instead released as a short story in Japanese edition of Starlog magazine. The artwork was by the future Akira director. I'm going to butcher this name, Katsuhiro Otomo. There,
You got it very close, actually. Katsuhiro Otomo, but that was very, very
yeah.
close.
So if people want to look at that, it's in Starlog magazine, and it's from
Wow.
the yeah. So there you
I'd
go.
be lying if I said I didn't kind of want to wish that movie had gotten made.
Yeah. And part of the reason why they made this house movie was because they wanted to do a movie like Godzilla, like a movie like Jaws, because Jaws came out in
Gotcha.
1975, so they wanted to do like a kind of a little bit of, I guess, a creature feature, like Jaws was, and kind of reflect that success there. With that there, yeah. So that's kind of just a fun, interesting kind of fact there about
That's
this.
interesting.
But yeah. Um, what else? Really, did you want to say about this movie there that you like that?
Well, let's see. I did keep noticing the soundtrack. I did keep the score. I did keep noticing like, and it would have these like bright, peppy songs that almost felt like they belonged to like a Saturday morning cartoon. And then there would be this kind of like genuinely like well done, like kind of creepy music it would settle into in other scenes. And I thought, regardless of how like wildly like flipping the tone is there, I thought that that music all felt like very well produced and very like the way it bounced back and forth, it was interesting. And then, of course, like you said, that piano scene kill, which I agree, I think might be the best one in the movie. That also like directly that makes like some of the soundtrack diegetic too, in a way that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Very kind of this was before a little bit before John Carpenter. Very John Carpenter-esque there with some of the
Yeah,
piano kind of chords there. I don't know, maybe did he get his hands on House there beforehand?
it's
Because
possible.
Halloween came out in 1978. I wonder did he hear a little bit? And let me play a little bit of the music because that's also very identifiable with this movie. I'm glad you mentioned that of some of the key kind of keystrokes in here. Kind of simple. You can imagine playing that on the piano, but it's very effective there. Like when you
Yeah,
actually learn how to play the Halloween theme, it's like it's not that actually complicated to play the Halloween theme there when you actually do that. But I know John Carpenter's all about that synth pop, so all about that kind of added into it. But yeah, you got
I wouldn't be surprised if he did get his hands on this movie because there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of foreign entertainment that mainstream was nowhere to be seen, right, in like a mainstream market here until not until like the 90s basically, and even then it was kind of sparse for some of that stuff. But uh I do feel like there you would get, especially people in artist circles would get like a bootleg VHS tape, and or maybe they do find a way to make like a batch of them, and then they would kind of like artists would spread those things around to each other. Like another good example is that anime from the early 80s called Angel's Egg, which hasn't even been released in theaters before. It's very soon is about to be for like a remaster thing. But there's a shot in that movie that is like very clearly, I'm like, I know Guillermo del Toro got that shot from Pan's Labyrinth from this animated movie. And I'm like, but the only way he would have been able to do that was some sort of bootleg VHS copy in the 80s or 90s that floated around. And then he was like, oh, wow, this is inspiring to me or whatever. But I feel like that happens more than we maybe realize.
mm, okay. So what would be your rating for House 1977?
I think I'd give it like a solid regular tune in. It's I think for like a mainstream audience, there's going to be a lot of people that won't be into this because of how weird it is. It's going to test some people's patience on that end. Um, but especially if you like kind of weird art house movies and horror films, I feel like it's a good sort of, especially if you have like a bunch of friends or something and you're like, you guys, none of you guys have seen this. Oh, you got to see how weird this is. It's the kind of perfect movie to throw on for that. Or even like maybe in like a bar, you see they'll play movies on like a screen on a wall that are just visually crazy, but they'll have music playing over everything else. I could totally see this being the kind of movie that you'd play during October at like a bar at like 2 a.m. just to freak people out.
Perfect Alamo Draft House type movie there for
Totally.
that for that type of crowd, hipster crowd. And it's like, well, I saw this movie from 1970s, this weird Japanese movie. You haven't probably seen it yet. So yeah, you got that. So you give it a tune in there.
Just a regular tune. And yeah, I think the characters are ultimately still just pretty stock and not all that interesting. But then there's a lot of stuff I think is very fun about it and is very interesting to look at, and the cinematography, like you mentioned. So I feel like there's still a lot of merit to get out of watching it. But I don't think it's like going to be a satisfying traditional narrative, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In all the fun that this movie is, I mean, would I put it on my list like top 100 horror movies ever? So I'm like, no, not really. But, I still think it is enjoyable and does have kind of this crazy wackiness, as we mentioned, and the music is very interesting and weird, and the characters, the way they are, and this kind of slapstick comedy horror type aspect really works. And these really interesting visuals in the movie. I couldn't find the clip of her getting eaten by the piano, but that's a really great scene. And then there's a scene where one of the characters gets eaten by a chandelier, that, and then that
And
eats her
then
up.
right after the piano too, the severed fingers are still playing the song.
Yeah, you got that going on. So there's like a lot of kind of weird stuff like that kind of going on that's just interesting visually, and that you could see people kind of being inspired by to take into kind of their own things there, horror wise. There is, I mean, this movie is R rated. There is some nudity in it. Some of the actresses in the movie are high school age. Like the lead actress is 17 in it, and she is nude. And if that's a problem for some people, that there is that in the movie. But yeah, I would also give it a tune in as well for this movie. It's not that hard to find, really, if you were able to find it. Like I said, released already in North America. You could buy it on Blu-ray there. You could also, if you have HBO Max, it's on HBO Max available there. One thing good
That's where
about
I watched it.
yeah, one thing about great about HBO Max is that it does have a lot of the Criterion Collection stuff. So you can watch like Akira Kurosawa stuff there. You know, a lot of kind of films like that that are part of the Criterion. That's one of the good things. They got rid of all the good cartoons, but they kept the Criterion stuff. So they got
For
that.
now, anyway.
Yeah, but that's a little bit of the piano scene that you see there. Like that's a cool kind of visual thing. Like her get, and then like that sequence right there, like this kind of blood. You can tell it's all filled with blood, but done in this kind of cool film way. I thought I liked that quite a bit there. Like that's very interesting. Um, yeah, very kind of also like mighty something you'd see in like Mighty Python, something like that. If you people ever watched those movies, like kind of the way they used kind of art there. So yeah, two tune-ins for House there. You can see it on HBO Max as well if you do have that. But yeah, not that hard to find there. So yeah. All right. I'll probably get out of here for now, and we'll do Silent Hill 2 to next Monday.
Okay.
Because I want to get prepped for this test. But so I'll close it out right there. Very good there. Thank you, Sage. Thank you for joining me, man.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated. We'll be back hopefully next Monday. We'll do Silent Hill 2, do a spoiler talk for that. Dead Space 2, you'll have that review available. And do Chainsaw Man. Good old Chainsaw Man. Do that, the movie of that. So I'm excited for that. That animation looks incredible in Chainsaw.
I've heard people say that it is maybe the most impressive thing from this studio so far. And the last thing people said that about was it was the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen. There was a big fight kind of the second half of that season, the last season, that was like jaw dropping. And then people are saying like, all right, now they've topped that with this movie.
Oh wow. Okay. Very cool there. So I can't wait to see that. Upcoming streams, I'll be with Neil, and we're gonna be doing a review for The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock there. Friday, hopefully Dust can join me again. We'll be doing After the Hunt, Good Fortune, Shelby Oaks, doing a review for that. Saturday, I'll be doing a season 2 review for Gen V, doing that with Chris from the Black Subs podcast. So those upcoming streams. Sage, let people know again where they can find you. What you got going on, what you got coming up next, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me over at Rated M for Maturity on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all under that exact same name. We stream every Tuesday about 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're working through Doom: The Dark Ages, which we'll be done with in the next week or two, and then the plan is to do Silent Hill after that. Although, because you have to go through it so many times to get the full story, I'm kind of debating exactly how we want to handle that. Otherwise, maybe Metal Gear Solid next, if just depending on how that goes. But yeah, we're just every week just hanging out, streaming consciousness, just whatever topic comes up. Super chatty. And then you can also buy my book on sale now on Amazon. 515 pages, and it's I think the first science fantasy paleo satire war epic about dinosaurs that anyone's ever made. So good or bad, it's definitely unique.
Yeah, make sure people check that out. It is finally here. It is finally out. So, and then the link will eventually be in the bio.
I added it earlier during Final Fantasy Tastic, so it is on the Twitter now.
Okay, it's on Twitter, and I'll make sure to put it in the description below there as well. Very cool there. And people, if they can't catch you on Twitch streaming Tuesdays, Saturdays, get on here on YouTube. YouTube, type in Rated M for Maturity and be able to find all the variety of different games that you guys play. I'm gonna go over send you to Geek down there since we were already talking about Silent Hill. Might as well just send him over there. Send you all over to him. It seems like he's far in the game at a certain part there. Where...
I took a little look earlier before the show, and it's definitely like getting to like the end of the second act, I think.
Yeah. So if people haven't played it, it's gonna be spoilers because he's pretty far in it. But yeah. So I will be back there Wednesday. Um, Feels like because people said the internet there was like a worldwide internet outage, or maybe just for the United States there was an internet outage or something that happened.
Like right now, or
I guess it was like earlier today or like early in the morning or something, or maybe. Yeah.
I was blissfully unaware.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. So people said that happened. I don't know. I'm just asking because I don't know. I feel like my internet's kind of running slow, or some pages are maybe I got too much stuff up on. I don't know. But yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, I'll send you over to Geekdom. Geekdom78 there, great guy, great friend of the stream, playing Silent Hill F. All right, everybody, stay tuned. Out of here.